Hello sports fans and welcome back to the Sports Report. We are testing out a different setup for today. I'm feeling a little bit of a closer angle. This week we were in China for the Shanghai Grand Prix. I am probably one of the few people that are enjoying these artificial battery battles that we are getting. I think we just shouldn't be whinging, okay? For our media this week, we are going to start with Kimi Antonelli leaking their hotel information so that some fans could come and get things signed, which then gave us this just really interesting video of George in some very short shorts. Do I think George was entirely happy with Kimi Antonelli's behaviour this entire weekend? No. You got to get used to it, babe. It's going to be a long couple of years of dealing with Kimi Antonelli. The sort of general vibes that we're getting in the media at the moment is everyone's kind of whinging, but specifically whinging about Mario Kart. No one seems entirely happy with the way that these regulations are going down. McLarens are whinging. Actually, I think it's just the McLarens that are whinging because they haven't figured it out. I mean, Ollie Behrman has been on the record saying that Ferrari's super helpful. Alpine can't really complain after the weekend that they had. Maybe it's just a McLaren problem. With that being said though, George has been whinging about the per lap harvest limits, that if you qualify at the front, the detection point is like a certain amount of meters less, so he reckons he's not getting a good enough chunk of the pie. Well, I don't know, if winning the sprint race and winning Australia wasn't enough for you, maybe you're being a little bit greedy. With that being said though, FIA is being the Ferrari international assistants and not changing that rule, but need a majority for a reason. Continuing with George Russell antics, last week he had a lot to say in the media about Lewis and being on the plane with Lewis and how Lewis was going to be winning.
Your engine's so good, your compression ratio is illegal and this and that, and so yeah, I think I'll just try and get to sleep quite early.
What are you going to tell him then?
Say, shut up and focus on your own stuff.
Well, apparently he didn't actually whinge at all. They just had a very peaceful flight. Final piece of media is the WAGs. I don't really talk about the WAGs much because I'm at fear that I'm going to be, called the woman F1 fan that only cares about the WAGs. But they wore some very lovely outfits this week and I've been very into my fashion lately, so I thought I'd put it in. Out of the three that I saw the most buzz about, I personally liked Alexandra's outfit the most. She just does the cheap how inspired dresses the best. Lily will be my second, and then whatever Carlos Sainz's partner's name is, I don't actually remember. I do like the kind of athletic look, and I think if I was to wear anything it would be hers, but I don't know, it just didn't stack up compared to the others. I do like China for its fashion. It always comes out with some beautiful looks, so on to the racing so that I still have a seat at the table. We actually saw Oscar Piastri compete in some kind of race this weekend, but it was too little too late for him eventually. I don't think there was nothing much to report if you're a McLaren fan. Honestly, if you're a McLaren fan, now's a good time to just shut your eyes. Or maybe you should get into the golf. I think that would be a good idea if you're a McLaren fan. I know I'm certainly finding myself watching a little bit more golf, if you catch my drift. The start was a bit hectic. Kimi Antonelli lost a bunch of places and then also just crashed into Isaac Hadjar because when in Shanghai, he was very angry about that, and I couldn't exactly say that I'd be entirely open to taking someone's apology when they're coming over to me after they've just won and I'm in fucking dead last or wherever Isaac ended up. I don't think I'd be super happy about that. And if the rumours are true that those two were on the plane together and we're gossiping about the Saudi Arabian and whatever the other fucking race is being cancelled. If I'd made a joke about you having 2 less races to win and then you fucking crash into me, yeah, look, it's safe to say I wouldn't be jumping at the opportunity to forgive you. He then had a 10-second penalty, which he ended up serving during a pit stop, and I think they handled it quite well, bringing him back from being fucking dead last to, I think he ended up finishing 5th in the sprint. This whole weekend can be described entirely as horse-on-horse crime. Charles and Lewis fought in the sprint, they fought in the real race as well. I thought the year of the horse, I was under the impression that it's meant to be like a year of growth for the horses. If that growth is like bruises growing on them because they're constantly fighting, year of the horse away, my friend. Last sort of thing that happened in the sprint race was during the safety car restart, because one of them blew up, Oscar Piastri overtook Kimi before the line and then ran away from him, and Kimi got on the radio and whinged because he did go to the George Russell school of complaining, and Oscar he was obliging when he gave it back, but I think he thought he could put one over Kimi and he couldn't. So sorry, Oscar. To the race. Now, I went to the pub to watch the race because, again, when in Rome, we have about 4 races in the entire calendar that are actually at decent times in Australia. So I'm going to take advantage of it and I'm going to go to the pub and I'm going to have a fucking beer and watch the F1. The issue was, of course, there's no sound on when you're in public. Where it's like you have to open up Instagram to get the actual commentary of what's going on. We get on and what's this? The McLarens aren't on the grid. What's the fucking go there? So we have to get Instagram up and only information about Lando at this point because his car just, I don't know, didn't start at all. Whereas Oscar's at least got around, but then he went to the pit lane and they're like, you got an issue, babe? I did see a few people say that it was papaya rules. I'm not going to comment on that, but the McLarens didn't fucking start. Falk found in kitchen a little bit there. Alex Albon didn't fucking start. And Gabriel Bortoleto also didn't start. I think Audi must have a curse on them that's carried over from their Sauber days that they can only run one car because they didn't run 2 cars in the Australian Grand Prix. Now they haven't run 2 cars in the Chinese Grand Prix. Not very good for my grid rival because I had both Piastri and Bortoleto. So yeah, I was already off to a fucking fantastic start with that. Now, Kimi Antonelli on pole. Youngest pole sitter ever in the history of forever, whatever. Did I think for a second that he was going to be able to convert this pole to a win? Not really, honestly. The way he behaved in the sprint race and the way he sort of just behaved generally, I didn't have entire confidence, but I should have, because of course he then went on to win with just flying colours. He fought off Lewis Hamilton, which is not an easy thing to do, might I add. I saw someone on TikTok refer to it as like just everyone at their retail job being 19 years old and fighting a 41-year-old. Thought that one was funny. And it's true, he managed to fight off Lewis Hamilton and keep his teammate away. I described it as a vintage Oscar Piastri. He got off, he went into the distance and he was fine and no one touched him and his pit stop was fine. He only once sort of had a little incident towards the end, 3 laps to go, went off, but is what it is. That was the story at the front. We had more horse-on-horse crime. Those two fought for basically the entire time. And that leads me into a discussion that I was having with my dad about what is Ferrari going to do about this fighting situation. Are they actually going to... Are you joking? Are Ferrari going to get involved? And if so, who are they going to prioritise? I think that's something that we can watch throughout the season. There is a discussion to be had that if these two weren't fighting each other, they wouldn't have ended up with a 12-second gap to George, and perhaps they could have finished higher. Because we've seen, like when there's other crap going on, which there was, George had a shocking pit stop. Because those two were too busy fighting themselves, George got around and got into second. Now, if I was Fred Vasseur, would I be telling them, stop fighting each other, go get that fucking Mercedes? Just a question. There was heaps of random backmarker laws. Fernando Alonso retired. Arvid Lindblad had a spin around. Nico Hülkenberg probably retired. So that's poo for Audi. For a second there, Franco Colapinto was running in second, which I believe I heard was like the first time they've done that since they had that random podium in Sao Paulo. Good for him, I guess. I can't say I'm Franco Colapinto's biggest fan ever, but it was, I suppose, nice to see that he's not going to be forever cursed with Pierre Gasly is better than you. He's at least had a moment there. Esteban Ocon was running in second. Of course, that was just for their lack of pit stops. When they did get to do their pit stops though, Haas fucked around and took 6 seconds, and then when Franco Colapinto was coming out, Esteban Ocon crashed into him, and they did a little spin around together. It was very cinematic, very a la Esteban and Oli. I think it was in Silverstone where they spun around together. Lance Stroll retired. I don't remember the rest of the fucking list of retirees, but there were a few. Red Bull also made an appearance again as a back marker because maybe their car's a boat this year. Perhaps they have made a boat. Max Verstappen was fighting with Pierre Gasly, which is something that you didn't think you were going to hear in 2026, but here we are. And the last thing that I will mention about the back markers is, of course, Ollie Behrman had another stellar race, and I think he is now ahead of both of the McLarens in the driver's standings. If I remember correctly, I think he's 5th, but I could be wrong there. So yes, it was a race of technology. It was a race of who has figured it out the fastest. And I will say they do seem to be getting closer now that they have an extended break in between Japan and Miami with the 2 Middle Eastern races being cancelled. We got to look at the positives here, boys. They've got a chance to make some developments, I guess. They've got time. They were able to close perceived gaps pretty quickly between Australia and China. We could be coming back in Miami and seeing some mixes around, if you know what I'm saying. The questions leading into Japan stand at currently: will McLaren ever race 2 cars? Will Audi ever race 2 cars? Has anyone heard from Cadillac? I forgot about them. I don't think I've said anything about Cadillac this entire time. Will anyone be able to catch up to Mercedes? Will the Aston Martin ever stop shaking? All is to be answered in Japan. We will see you when we are back. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Sports Report. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. Or you can send me hate mail if that would make you more happy.